writer, and director Dani Menkin. And no film can get produced without excellent producers. And John Weinbach, what inspired you, Dani, to make a film about basketball? And John, what caused you to want to get involved in making sure that this film got on the map?
So this is one of my first childhood memories. For us in Israel, it's like the first man walking on the moon. And we were amazed that there was no film about it. And then when we found out so many footage that has never been seen, so many stories that nobody has heard about this event. I mean, how many lived through this period here in Israel? Here. You see, I mean, so for the Israelis, I would just say, Hu Makara. You see, it's like, you have to understand, it's like on the map for us, it's like the 11th commandment. We really live through that. And that's why, at some point, when I did it for the Israeli TV, and I felt, big responsibility because there was no movie about it, so I realized there won't be any movie about it. I will be the one telling that story when they're all alive and well. We thought about the idea that, the American audience actually don't know about this story. And that's when John Weinbach has done this amazing film, The Other Dream Team, that kind of was communicating in some ways with On the Map.
Well, it was actually sort of a great confluence of events. Dani and I were meeting about a completely separate project, and I was telling this a couple of nights ago. We did what any two Jews in Los Angeles should do. Our first meeting, we had a hummus meal in the valley, and we started talking about different projects. And he mentioned that he was doing this film about Maccabi Tel Aviv for Israeli television. And I had, sort of to backtrack, for those of you who know me, I'm a pretty big sports geek of the highest order, and I had been a huge Los Angeles Lakers fan and knew Israelis growing up and knew about Maccabi Tel Aviv from their success in the 80s. And just in terms of researching, I'd known about this great story from the 77, the original championship, and I was doing a film called The Other Dream Team, which is about the Lithuanian Olympic basketball team, and it had echoes of the story. Russians as the bad guys, politics and sports, and I always said during the making of that film, this is like just the Lithuanian story. There is an Israeli story that is like this. It has all these elements. And if I could ever do that story, how great it would be. And so then into my life came Dani. And so that's sort of how I got involved. And it was really a no-brainer. I had written about Maccabi's 2005 championship for the Wall Street Journal. I happened to be in Israel when they won the second consecutive time. They won back-to-back championships. And, not unlike this team, I mean, it was out of a different order. This was at a time of, a lot of political tumult, 2005, and they had, I think, guys from 6 different countries, 2 former NBA first-round draft picks. Maccabi Tel Aviv, it's really not overstating it. They are the single greatest basketball franchise outside of the United States. They're the only team outside of the United States that had its own exhibition at the Hall of Fame. So the short answer is I had to get involved. And so that's how it came to be.
You interplayed the history of what's happening in the world scene from the point of view of the Israelis, but also the world, with Munich taking place, and the 1973 war, and Entebbe. These are pretty massive events to be happening in such a short amount of time, and the euphoria that follows with the basketball team. Give us a sense, because Dani, you're the writer, and you had the choice to make this purely a sports film, but you brought in history. I mean, a really emotional, heavy, almost downer history, and then caused us to cry and laugh. How did you think about this?
First, any subject that you take in any story has to be universal and has to cross from the subject. And Joe knows it, because he's doing so many great sports stories. He did the movie of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and it's always much more than the sport. I mean, even the 30 for 30 or the HBO sport films are more than that. So my challenge was to make it this film that, also people that really don't like sport here will be engaged into. When I called it a little bit like the Forrest Gump of Israeli history. In many ways, because everything is connected to that story. I mean, Moshe Dayan shaking their hand, Rabin resigned the day of the game, the Russian story, the Cold War, Munich and Tebe, everything got involved in that game. So in order for the story to be bigger than the drama that was, in its place, we wanted to make it a story that will be crossing from the sport world.
Is this a contender for the Oscars?
Oh, from your mouth to
God's ears.
Oscars, God's ears. But in many ways, I was lucky to be shortlisted in one Israeli Academy twice, and it's never as enjoyable as if you really touch people and to hear you guys laugh and some people cry. And that's more than any trophy. I'm not just saying it to be nice. It really is. It's about doing the making of the film. It's not always easy, as we all know. It's not always only that. So it's much more than that. And really, to give credit to John Weinbach, to Nancy Spielberg, Roberto Grossman, and these guys brought the American eye to this film, and I was really listening to them to say, okay, how will it cross?
Dan's being far too modest. I mean, we helped, but he had everything there in the interviews and the human touch. I don't know if some of you were watching closely, he has the interview with Chris Boatwright. There's that little pause where he was Moshe Dayan. Why? Moshe Dayan was Moshe Dayan, and it flows into it. And I think, from my perspective, one of the great things about this film, I learned a lot. I knew a lot about the story. I certainly didn't know anything about the timing of the Rabin and the Israeli Watergate and that happening at the same time, but also just the footage. Having combed European basketball pretty thoroughly, it's not like on YouTube. You can't Google and say, CSKA Moscow sideline shots, and they'll be there like there is for everything else. And Dani managed to find, really, it's like an archivist, dream. Some of these shots from the plane and from the crowd from 1977 in Vertone, Belgium, it's incredible. So all credit to you.
Well, that's actually a good segue into how did you find such phenomenal footage that made us feel like we were living at that time? And you had it in black and white, you had it in color, took us into the emotional side of it, but finding that must have been like a real treasure hunt, Sherlock Holmes.
And look, I come from the world of documentary, and I crossed a little bit to the world of fiction now, and I'm doing more and more fiction. So for me, any documentary that I'm touching, I'm trying for it to feel like a fiction film. And in the fiction world, I like it to be really honest and real. So in that end, the only way for me to make an historical film like this, which is a little bit different than my other films, which the story already happened, I had to find all this footage to bring it to life.
Give us some of the backstory on Bill Walton, who's such an American hero.
Yep.
And I understand his son is the coach for the Lakers.
Right. Yeah, well, it was a great day. We went down to San Diego. I've had the pleasure of interviewing Bill for pretty much all the things I've worked on. And, we heard that he was friends with Tal Brody. And, some of you may know, a lot of people are friends with Bill Walton. You're never sure what's true. That they played on the same team in 1970. And again, people say they're teammates, they're friends. Some of it's BS, some of it's not. It was truly heartfelt. And just to give you a little color, he was 17 when he met, Bill Walton was 17 when he met Tal Brody, who at the time was almost maybe in his late 20s. And they played on this team, and Bill never played. And the coach hated Bill Walton. And Tal was his roommate. And literally sort of talked him off the ledge and said, no, you're still going to be a good player, Bill. Don't give up basketball. And that made a huge impression on him. And I think even we had sets of questions where things we wanted him to say, but I think we were even blown away by the authenticity and the depth of the emotion. He really did get choked up talking about Tal, talking about his dad. I think he was also sort of living it through again. And, he's great, and it's just truly authentic. Also, Tal has a lot of goodwill everywhere, so, people would really open up about him because he made, a real impact on people.
And getting to David Stern, the commissioner for the NBA, that's a pretty big deal too. To get him to talk so openly about his passion for the Israeli team as well.
Yeah, John Weinbach calls him the rabbi.
I do call him the rabbi, but he was great. I mean, he's also, it's a topic that I think he isn't asked about all the time, and he likes talking about international basketball and the impact. And again, it's authentic and it's true, which I think what comes across. And Dani did a masterful job of getting these kind of, you couldn't write better quotes than what he said, but he really said them, and he said them on the first tape. So that's sort of how it goes.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about Aussie Perry. Here you have someone who stands out. He's very tall, very black, very American, and he joins the team. How did you track him down, and is he living in Israel? Did he get married there?
So first, O.C. Perry is a fascinating story, and I can tell you that I'm writing a fiction story about him. Right now, I have a solid first draft, and I even shot a separate documentary just about his life. Some of the Israelis know his incredible story, which is in many ways is the fiction version of On the Map, but zooming into the guy that came from New York, had only drugs or basketball, and then was the last one to be cut from the Knicks. And for this guy not to be playing in the New York Knicks means almost like a death sentence. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, Israel comes, saves him, and he realized what Israel is. But at the end of the day, O.C. Perry lives today in Israel. So as John said, it's authentic. The way they felt, the connection with Israel, it is authentic. And we're proud of them. I mean, these guys, all of them, they are icons for Israel, and they really did put us on the map.
We're going to have an auction of this awesome basketball. Who signed it?
This is Tal Brody, Nancy Spielberg, Dani Menkin, and this second is going to be also John Weinbach.
Wow.
So it's worth more this second.
So I'm going to take this basketball now, and are you all enthused about having this basketball? It's basketball season, and there's only this one special one, Tal Brody.
Some are already gathable, I know from other screenings. And
we're going to take 1 minute and do a very special auction here for us. And I hope you all raise your hand. All the money is going towards the promotion of the film. Some of it towards the fires, and you walk home with a great feeling, a souvenir basketball, and something to tell your friends that you felt that you were part of the game and you have something to show for it. So I'd like to start the bidding out at $100. Do I hear $100 once? Do I hear a hand? Do I see a hand up? Yes. The woman in the gray shirt. We have $100 going once. Yes. We have, name out your number.
150.
150, 150, we have going once. 500, we have $500 from the gentleman in the blue shirt. Do I hear 550? Do I hear?
550.
We have 550, 550, we have 550 going. Do I hear 600, 600? Remember, this is for this phenomenal film. $600 is a drop in the bucket. I hear 600 right here from the woman in the peacoat. 600, 600 is really phenomenal.
You have a chance.
Do I hear 650? 650 coming.
Challenge her.
You've got to challenge each person because this is basketball, and basketball we're here to win. And do I hear 650? 650 from any of your contenders? I have a 650 going here. All right, what's your name? Ronan. Ronan is bidding $650 for this fantastic basketball. This basketball signed by Tal Brody, signed by John. Who else signed it?
And Nancy Spielberg.
And Nancy Spielberg signed this basketball. This is one of the unique phenomena of all time to get Tal Brody, John, and Nancy all on one ball. Do I hear 700? 700. Do I hear 700 from the crowd? I've got 700. 700 from going in the third row of the theater. 7 going to 750. Do I hear 750 going once? Do I hear 750? You've got to have this ball. This is something to talk about. Shabbat is coming up. The theater is going to be packed tomorrow and all week long, and then it opens in New York. Oh my gosh, we have another 700. Did I say 700? 750. We're at 750. 750 is quite phenomenal. 750 is going once. You don't want to let this happen. Just think about it. 50 more bucks and you could be the $800 winner. Are you going to let this ball go for only 750? Yes, you are. We've got 800. All right, we've got a war going on. Right here, between the 3rd row and the 6th row, we have $800 for our basketball. A basketball that's a treasure, unique to this film. Do I hear anyone saying 850? 850. We're going once. Don't let that arm not go up. It's basketball, you've got to make that shot. 2 points, 2 points. 850 going once. 850 going twice. And it is so. We have one last round of applause for this fantastic film.
This film is an extraordinary story, a David and Goliath story of epic proportions. It's not only the story of an incredible individual who led this team to victory, but of teamwork and the state of Israel. It's about so much more than just sports. It's sports, but it's also about Israel. And for that reason, I really wanted to have a ball for my sons, my twin sons. I got 2 balls, and I bid on a 3rd one tonight. And we doubled our bid together, so we're giving twice the amount to this film and to help Israel, and I'm very proud to do that with you.
Thank you, Jana. I want to say you covered all the thing that I want to say, so I'm going to just add one more thing for Dani as a personal friend. Really appreciated the work that he did here, and I think this guy is very, very talented. I want to take this beautiful ball and give it to my brother, Doron, which is my partner and my best friend. Thank you. Thank you, brother.
I think we have a lot of love going here for this film, On the Map, that everyone should see. And Jenna, you're right. It is a story of Israel through the eyes of the game of basketball with a great historical backdrop. And it's a real pleasure for all of us to see it and to be part of helping to bring it on the map. I am Sharona Justman, the co-founder of the Israel Conference, here interviewing Dani Mencken, the writer and director of the phenomenal film On the Map. Dani, congratulations for making a superb film. In a word, can you tell us what's your inspiration and what do you hope for the film?
I hope, people will be moved by, maybe see a different side of Israel, but definitely no intention to make the film anyway a political, an entertainment movie. And this is our version for the Miracle on Ice, but we think better.
Yes, Dani, this film brought us to tears, it made us laugh, it opened our eyes, it has history, it has reality, it has sports, it has fun. You are very talented. Is this your first film?
No, I would say this is maybe 6 or 7 I've been doing for the past 20 years, TV, fiction, documentaries. But this is really personal. It's one of my first childhood memories. And I was amazed for the fact that people don't know about it here in the United States. And I'm extremely excited that we got a theatrical release in LA and in New York there, in the year. So, I cannot ask for more. I'm like a kid in the candy store. I'm making this story about my childhood heroes. I hope people will react to it and enjoy it as much as I really enjoyed making it.
Well, we just came out of a theater that was packed,
Yeah.
standing room only.
Sold out, yeah.
Everybody was leaving saying, I'm coming back tomorrow and bringing friends, kids, family, colleagues. I
Yeah.
overheard conversations of, can we have special screenings? Everybody needs to see this. This sounds like it's the beginning of a viral love of your film.
Thank you so much. I really hope we're on onthemapfilm.com, and yes, we're having requests to show it all around the country. So the nice thing that I can always say that at this moment we go on the map and it goes on the map, and we hope it will continue. You can inspire people, maybe move, maybe people will laugh. What more can you ask? That's kind of give you the engine of making a film, which is not easy. It's a lot of business involved and to raise the money. And really, we reached out to the community here. They're helping us. We're getting nice people to donate to us, in order to support a good story from Israel. We hope it will continue.
It's pretty phenomenal. You've got one of the top technologists to step in as your producer.
Ori Eisen.
Ori Eisen.
Absolutely amazing guy.
You've got John Weinbach, who's a well-regarded producer, and you really hit it to the ballpark with Nancy Spielberg
And Roberta Grossman.
and Roberta Grossman as your executive producers. This film is going to be on the map for a long time.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. I'm Sharona Justman with the Israel Conference at the Movies. Dani Menkin, the writer, the director, and you can learn more at onthemapfilm.com.